Good morning, everybody. Thank you much for being here. This is Local Development Environment for Drupal with DDEV. My name is Mauricio Dinarte. My pronouns are he and him. I go by Dinarcon online. I speak English, Spanish, French, and Portuguese to different levels of proficiency. So if you speak any of those languages, please talk to me. Just a disclaimer, I might or might not be able to respond in the same language, depending on the topic. Um, my email address My email address is mauricioaragari.com. I run this website called understanddrupal.com, in which I provide content around Drupal in different languages, mostly about Drupal migrations, but the idea is to expand that. And that is my Drupal.org profile. I am from Nicaragua, beautiful tropical country in Central America, known as the land of lakes and volcanoes. I collaborate with Agaric, Boston-based cooperative, but we are distributed, and there are also some members in Europe. As I said before, in this website, I write mostly in English, but to the extent possible, I translate to Spanish and French, and hopefully soon to Portuguese as well. And I would also like to thank Pantheon for supporting me in being here today. So we're here to talk about DDEV and local development environments. So as a Drupal developer, what do I want to be able to develop locally? For one, I want to be able to run multiple projects on different major versions of Drupal. Drupal 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Believe it or not, like even recently, we have been asked to migrate sites from Drupal 6 to Drupal 11, or from Drupal 5 to newer version of Drupal. I don't know why you will be running those versions today, but it is what it is. So DDEV makes it easier to be able to run multiple versions of Drupal at the same time. I also need to support multiple versions of PHP, database servers, web servers. All of these, you change a couple of lines in the configuration, and you get what you need. Also, I need to access to debugging and profiling tools, which we're going to be demoing today. As a developer, Xdebug and XHProf is what we're going to be covering today. As a developer, I also need to support other services that might be used in production, so I might want to try to replicate as close as possible the production environment. So caching services or search providers. I need to support multiple build tools or testing tools, Composer, Yarn, Selenium, Behat. All of this is supported either natively by DDEV or via add-ons, which again, we're going to cover today. And related to Drupal specific, if you will, debugging tools, how to get access to the database and administer the database itself, how to capture email if I am testing a feature related to email delivery. So all of these, even as a sole developer, I want this to in my local setup. Now, if I am part of a team, I want to have a homogeneous environment across operating system and across team members. Everybody has different preference in terms of IDEs. Today we will be showing PHP Storm and VS Code, but I have friends who develop like exclusively on BI. I can barely exit BI, and they develop Drupal using that. So it's amazing, and you need to respect those preferences, and DDEV can work with that. It's very easy to install, and we're going to talk a little bit about this. And the support is fantastic. I think this is what makes DDEV excel over some other alternatives. So, talking about DDEV, it is a Docker-based open source tool for local development environment, not only for Drupal. It actually supports multiple programming languages: PHP, Node, Python. Multiple CMSs. Last time I checked, there were like 24 different frameworks that were supported, including Drupal, of course. Again, different frameworks of PHP or Python in this case. And as I said before, the community support is outstanding. They have support in Discord that is for multiple communities, or if you are specifically about Drupal, in the Drupal Slack channel, found DDEV, you get support there. And what I like about DDEV is that you don't need to be an expert in Docker. It hides the complexity of Docker, but if you are a power user, you get access to those. You get access to extensions, and you can do anything that you want to do under the hood. There are multiple providers supported. If you are on macOS, there are some open source alternatives, some closed source alternatives, free as not having to pay, or paid subscription and so on. So like depending on your operating system, there are multiple ways of installing DDEV. And there are also like fully like web versions like Gitpod or GitHub code spaces that you don't even need to have the whole thing in your computer. Actually, the contribution tomorrow, some people will be using Gitpod, so like you don't need to have anything pre-configured before coming to contribution and be able to contribute to Drupal. I have seen people using this, for example, to test something using an iPad or a different tablet. So this is a live demo. Of course, nothing can go wrong. And let's get started. This is the homepage of DDEV. From the most important link here after supporting DDEV is the documentation. And as I said before, there are 24 supported frameworks. We're going to focus on Drupal. And my goal here is that you see a pattern. The DDEV documentation in itself is very good, and on top of that, it makes it very easy for other people, to work with their specific projects. But that being said, I will mostly be copying and pasting and doing some, description of what is going on under the hood. Here, I'm going to just switch to my terminal, create a directory. Let's say Barcelona. Let's switch to that directory. And from here on, I will be mostly copying and pasting some commands. I will not be doing something that I like to do when I have more time for demos like this, which is initializing a Git repository and making a commit after every step so you can see the difference of what is going on under the hood. I will be highlighting some elements of what each of these commands will be doing as necessary, but if you have time, basically after every step, do a git add, git commit, and check the differences between them. So the first command that we did is DDEV config, in which we specify the project name. In this case, Drupal. We want to use PHP 8.3, and by default, we're going to use a composer template that will put Drupal in the doc root, in a web folder for the doc root. This is the command here. Then I'm going to run DDEV start, which I already did. It starts the container. So far, I don't have Drupal in my local environment yet. If I do a DDEV launch, I see nothing. Why? Because I have some configuration. DDEV is already running, but I still don't have the Drupal code. So how do I get the Drupal code? In this case, with Composer. So DDEV Composer create template, and this is going to grab all the code for Drupal 11. Hopefully the internet Wi-Fi is going to be good enough. If not, I will have to find a different way to entertain you today. All right. Okay, while that is running, the next step is installing Drush, because as professional Drupal developers, this is a very handy tool to have. It will allow us to interact with the website via the command line and automate a lot of things. So almost there. After this process, if I run DDEV launch again, I will not get the same error as before. Instead, I will get a Drupal installation screen. But instead of installing Drupal manually, I will do it using Drush, which is the next command from the example. Okay. Now that we have Drupal itself, we're going to update the configuration. Again, this is where running those Git differences will highlight what is happening under the hood. But for the sake of brevity, let's just run these commands as the guide suggests. Okay. While doing this, again, I want to highlight that out of the box, there are different versions of Drupal that are supported. Some of them require Composer to be installed, some of them don't. And Just as an aside, sometimes we get projects, and in my case in particular, they might not have DDEV configured, but I am so used to DDEV. I've been working with for so long that it is easier and faster for me to, run these commands basically, DDEV config, DDEV start, do some updates to the version of PHP or the version of the database server, and after that I get an environment that I am very familiar with. So, running those commands, I have a site that we are going to be using down the road as an example for some of the other elements. So the first thing that I want to highlight is that, even while just talking together and basically following this set of instructions, we got a fully working Drupal environment. And under the hood, we have Drush, we have Composer. If you were to be working with hosting providers like Pantheon, you will have Terminus to interact with that hosting providers. You are going to have Node installing inside the web container, a lot of things, and those some of those are going to be demonstrated today. Now, let's say that you already have a project, or that you have a team, and let's say that you happen to be working on a migration like I do basically every day for the last 7 years, and that's fun. So just a little bit of highlight. If you want to learn about migration, I have written 1.5 book. This one is the original one, 31 Days of Migrations. This one is the second one, migrating your data from Drupal 7 to Drupal 10. And all of them come with repositories, and that is what I'm actually going to demo now. The repository for the second book, which is still in progress, but you can already copy it. It uses DDEV under the hood because, again, it's relatively easy to set up. And basically, this is what we are going to be doing today. Again, for the sake of simplicity, I have already set up some things because I want to focus on DDEV itself. So this project is about migrating a Drupal 7 site to Drupal 10 and teaching you everything that you need for that. At the moment, I have the Drupal 7 project running. The code is already there, but I don't have a database, and that's why you see this error message, no database available. So how do I get a database? There is a command. I'm just going to switch here, called importdb. You specify the file flag and then the path to the zip file itself. Just with that, if I come back to the site and I refresh, I will have a working site with a little bit of things that you need to review. If I go to node 23, because that's a nice number, there is supposed to be an image here, but there is none. Why? Because even though I imported a database, my files are still missing. So conveniently, DDEV has another command for importing files, and it is called import-files. It specifies the source. All of these are assets that come with the example repository. If you look at the example repository here, there is these asset folders with the Drupal 7 database and the Drupal 7 files. So basically, again, like you run a couple of commands and you have a fully working website. I execute this command, and if I go back to the page and I refresh, now I have a beautiful image that was created using Debugging generate. Okay, what do we have here? When you use the import files command, there is a caveat. Drupal expects files to be in site's default files folder if those are public files. So your compressed files needs to mimic that hierarchy. But otherwise, just like copy those two commands and you get your database and you get your files. If you need to make database dumps, just as a backup, there are multiple options. You have Drush. As I said before, you have Drush available. You can say DDEV Drush, and then there is a SQL dump command inside of Drush that you can run. But DDEV also have a command called snapshot, and this is going to create a copy of everything that is in the database container. And the reason why I highlight this is because it is possible that in the same DDEV project, in the same instance, you have multiple databases, and if you run this command, you are going to back up all the database in the container. One thing that I highly recommend is that for every command that you execute, you do two things. First, you run it with the help flag, so you can get to see all the options. So if you want to restore a snapshot, you say DDEV snapshot restore. If you want to name a snapshot to something more meaningful, you can use the name flag and so on. So the first thing that I recommend is run every command with the help flag, but also run those like the same command, but leaving the last part out. In this case, DDEV. And what this is going to get you, a list of everything that at the moment DDEV supports. And this list is going to vary depending on the type of project that you are running and the add-ons that you have installed on your site already. And again, like we're going to talk about add-ons later, but the commands that we're running, like you can just like practice or get familiar with them by typing DDEV, get the list, then that specific command, and -- help. Another thing that I want to highlight is that some of these commands are mostly wrappers for things that happen inside the web container. An example is Composer. We saw from the very first example that we were using DDEV Composer, and then we were using DDEV Drush. You don't need to do that if you don't want to. Under the hood, you can connect to the web container. You can type DDEV SSH, and inside the web container, you have Composer. Oh, this, yeah. Yeah, you have Composer, you have Drush, and you have a lot of other commands. So you can, if you want, SSH into the container and run the commands directly there. Another option is to run DDEV exec, and this is going to execute basically anything that you pass inside the web container. If I type pwd, DDEV, DDEV exec pwd, this is going to execute that command inside the web container. I can do the same for DDEV exec drush or Composer and so on. DDEV exec has an alias, which is dot. So DDEV.drush, and it is basically the same thing. So many different ways to do the same action. I highlight this mostly because, if you want to automate some processes, there are people who integrate DDEV inside their CI implementations. These are different ways in which you can execute commands inside the web container. We were talking about migrations a little bit before. So this is my Drupal 7 site. I already imported the database. I already imported the files. And this is my Drupal 10 site, which is the target environment. And I'm going to run a migration. So I'm going to switch again. Drush, DDEV, Drush, migrate, import, tag, content. So again, like this is an example, but literally you just copy and paste a few commands from a guide, and you get not only a fully working Drupal 7 site, but also a fully working Drupal 10 migrated site. And this is not just for self-promotion. I just want to show something else. And that is what is happening under the hood, like how you can connect one DDEV instance to another, and how you can configure one DDEV instance by itself. So the first things that I want to point out is the settings.ddev.php file. In here, this is the connection to the default database, but I created a second connection for my Drupal 7 host, and the pattern to connect from one instance to another in terms of the host definition is DDEV dash the name of the project. The other project is called migrate dash Drupal 7, so that's what we use here, and then dash, and then what container do you want to connect to? In this case, I want to connect to the web container, and there is a migration for files, upgrade D7 file. And this one needs to connect to the web container to be able to fetch public files. So again, like what is the pattern that you need to follow? DDEV dash the name of the project dash the container that you want to connect to, in this case, web. So that is how you can connect from one DDEV instance to another, and an example of being able to run multiple projects at the same time. Another thing that I want to highlight is this very important configuration file. When you do DDEV config, you will get a .ddev folder, and inside of that, this config.yml file. So remember that I said that you can change your PHP version. You can do it here. You modify it to something else. You can change the version of MariaDB to something else. You have control of over Composer, debugging, some debugging configuration, what web server you want to use. And if you just scroll down, you get like, for PHP, you can go all the way back to 5.6 out of the box, and there are even plugins if you want to go way back. If you want to use a database, there are different versions of either MySQL or MariaDB that are working out of the box. Basically, have a look at this file. You can have custom DNS settings. Let's say that for some reason you need even your local environment to have a specific domain that you want to use. So you can specify all of that here in the additional fully qualified domain names section. Okay, so we have a running Drupal 7, a running Drupal 10 site, and a way to connect between the two. Now, let's go back to the first example, and we're going to be executing some commands to interact with the website. First, I'm just going to get myself a login link. And I'm going to install a theme, a module, and do some configuration directly from the command line. So Gene, which is a very popular administration theme, requires also a module. So this is a good example of working with both at the same time. So I'm going to copy this command to install the module. And for the most part, if you want to run a composer command, you only need to prefix it with DDEV, and it is going to run as expected. Now, if I want to install the theme, DDEV drosh theme enable Gene, and if I refresh my website, I am still using Claro, which is the default administration theme. I'm going to run another command called config set system theme admin Gene. Under the hood, what this is going to do is update the configuration of my website to use Gene instead of Claro as my administration theme. You can do the same from the UI, and this is again another example in which knowing other Drupal APIs and being able to use Git will help you a lot. In this case, via Drush, I updated my site configuration. If I am using version control and I export my configuration, I will be able to see which file changed and learn from that. That is another way to learn about configuration management in Drupal. Have it under source control, make a configuration change either via the user interface or from the command line, just like I did, export the configuration and see the differences. So I enable a theme, I configure it to be my administration theme. If I go back to the site, a Gene actually requires an extra module for it to be available in the front end as well. It is documented in the module page itself, but again, for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to enable the module. And if I refresh, I will have Gene in my front end as well. So again, like all of these, it's not new. If you are familiar with Drush, you know how to enable elements or modules, themes, maybe make some configuration changes, running cron, and so on. Again, like if you're using Composer, basically just prepend the Composer command with DDEV, and for the most part, that is all that you need. Okay, now let's start trying to do even more. Like I want to check my database for some reason. When I work with migrations, I need to constantly run database queries against my Drupal 7 site to verify how the source data is present, and I sometimes do the same in Drupal 10. So how do I do this? There are multiple ways in the documentation. There is information about how to connect from the command line, how to connect from IDEs, how to connect from external GUIs. So we're going to do all three. If I just want a SQL CLI, either DDEV, MySQL, and that's it. I can say show tables, and I can start running my queries. If you were using Postgres, instead of typing DDEV MySQL, you type DDEV PSQL, and then you get a prompt for Postgres. Now, you might have a client already that you are familiar with and you want to use. So DDEV will not force you to use only those tools that it integrates out of the box. So what is another option? If you type DDEV describe, you will get information about all the services that are configured for this project and how you can connect to it from inside the Docker containers and from your host machine. So in this case, my DB container, I can connect through it via localhost and this specific port. So let's say that I am using PHP Storm, which has a built-in tool to manage databases. So I add a data source for MariaDB. I use the port, and by default, that credentials are db. Please don't hack me. And now, I can do the same. Show tables, and now I'm using my choice, if you will, of a database client to connect to the database. Yet again, you got multiple options. There are GUIs like phpMyAdmin, adminer, some that are specific to some operating system. For now, I am going to demo phpMyAdmin. The way that you do it is, I already did it again because it's going to download the whole internet, and I didn't want to lose time doing that. So if you have a project, what you will do is DDEV get. This is going to get an add-on, and we're going to talk more about add-ons in a little bit, and then DDEV restart. And after you do those two steps, you're going to have a new command that is called DDEV phpMyAdmin. Oh, it's not installed. Yes, I want to install it. Okay. Yes, of course. Live demos. I was running this exact process some time ago and it just worked, but this time it didn't. Well, let's give it some time. Let's have it restart. And we should be able to see a very nice phpMyAdmin screen. Interesting. All right. Maybe I'm not able to connect to the internet in the end. Well, let's imagine that we got a beautiful phpMyAdmin screen there.
Oh, well done.
Yeah, live demos. Well, but 2 out of 3 for connecting to the database, not so bad. Now let's say that we want to capture email because we don't want to spam our production users with some new features that we're just testing. Thankfully, that one comes available out of the box, so I don't need to download the internet for that one. And it is going to use a service called MailPit. So again, like I type DDEV, I see all my options, and it's this one. So DDEV MailPit. And you get this interface that is going to capture emails. So anybody knows how to force an email or how to trigger an email to be sent from Drupal? Anybody? Contact forms? Forgot password. Yeah, let's try a new one. Create a new user. Hello, Barcelona at example.com. Hello, Barcelona, my super. And I want to notify the user that a new account is being created. So if I come here, I get a new email. It wasn't sent to the internet. It was captured by MailPit, and I can see the content of the email. I can check the headers. I can see the raw, plain text version of the email. This is available like as out of the box. You don't need an add-on to run MailPit. One caveat: MailPit out of the box will capture anything that is sent by the native mail function in PHP. If you are using something like SMTP or Symfony Mailer or a module that bypasses that procedure, it will not be captured out of the box. But of course, DDEV got you covered. If you go to the settings.ddev file, you're going to see that it has out of the box configuration for overriding Symfony Mailer, so that it will again like redirect to catching emails locally. But just be mindful that if you are using SMTP, you want to make sure that this is configured and properly set up and tested before you try to send a million users to your a million emails to your whole database. Okay, so we got checking emails. We got database GIS. Now let's talk about add-ons. So officially, I think the last time that I checked, there were 24 add-ons. If you type DDEV get list, yeah, you get 24 add-ons. If you type DDEV get list all, you get some that are not official, 117. One that I want to highlight here is one for development of Drupal core. Here, there you go. So, github.com, just a fish did a Drupal core dep, and this is an add-on for DDEV that will do many things, including make it easy to run PHP unit tests, to run night watch tests, and so on. So again, like beyond what is officially supported, there is also a big community behind DDEV, not only for Drupal, but also for other CMSs and frameworks. So check those out. So you get that by typing DDEV get and then list -- all. All right, let's set up some debugging tools now. I'm going to show you probably the easiest way ever in the existence of the internet to configure Xdebug. So let's use PHP Storm as an example. I have this button to start listening for connections. Then I switch the right project and type DDEV Xdebug on. The on is optional, but I want to be verbose in this example. And then if I go to the website, let's say DDEV launch. Now, just by clicking the listen button and then enabling Xdebug on the command line, I get this prompt. Do you want to start listening for connection? Yes. What is the index.php, like the root of the project? I click accept. I didn't have a breakpoint, so I get some warnings there. But if I go to index.php and I set a breakpoint, now I refresh the page and I can start debugging. And I will be doing a presentation about debugging in about a month. But one thing that I want to highlight is that debugging is not only for fixing errors. Actually, many times when I work with Drupal migrations, I use debugging tools like this to understand how my data is coming from Drupal 7. I will set a breakpoint where the data is collected, and or after it has been processed by the migrate API, and then I will be able to see like how everything came through, how everything was transformed to before it is sent to Drupal for saving. So again, like debugging and proper debugging tools are not only for fixing errors, but also understanding your system. And when you get that understanding, you can find solutions to some specific needs that you have. Again, like DDEV is magical, like one click on a button and then one command in the command line and it works. Under the hood, what it is doing is setting up a server here. This is what's happening under the hood. But again, DDEV simplifies all of that process. And the documentation again is fantastic. This is how you configure Xdebug. It has more technical background. As I said before, DDEV is not going to take from you. Like if you are a power user, you will be able to do what you need. But if you just want to develop Drupal sites and found a bug and need to have a debugger working, one click of a button, 3 words in a command, launch a site, and you get a debugging connection already working. For the sake of time, I will bypass the Visual Studio Code configuration, but again, like everything that you need, 6 steps, you get a local copy. Let's go now with profiling. Again, like super easy. DDEV XHProf. Let's verify that I'm typing my things right. DDEV XHProf on. I can go here. I can refresh my page. And I start collecting profiling information. If I refresh, I get more information. This is XHProf, which might be hard to grasp. So Randy told me about a very nice UI tool. This one will require an add-on. And so let me get the list of add-on. It is called XHGUI. So again, like what is the process? You go to the official documentation for this one here. So this is how you install the add-on. Then you restart. I'm just going to run it because last time things didn't work. Yes. Yeah, I guess every attendee of DrupalCon is connecting to the GitHub API and it is blocking me. So
that's what it is.
yeah, so I'm getting blocked by GitHub, but I might have. Yeah, that's well. Let's. This is another time in which we're going to use our imagination. We run the command for getting the add-on. We restart DDEV, and then for Drupal, we install this package as a dev dependency, and we modify our settings.php to include this line, these 3 lines. And after that, we go to this URL, and you get this information, but in a more graphical interface. I should have taken a screenshot of that, but again, conference Wi-Fi. The last thing before finishing the demo is integration with hosting providers. So there are out-of-the-box integration with Acquia, Lagoon, Pantheon, Platform SH, Opson. You can also integrate with anything else, connecting via SSH. You basically do rsync of files, database or the public files, for example. For the sake of the example, I'm going to show an integration with Pantheon. There are 3 things that you will need. A machine token from Pantheon to verify that you are the owner of the website that you want to connect to. At the moment, you need to create a backup of the site and environment that you want to pull from Pantheon. This will likely change in the future because it's a step that is not truly necessary, and we can automate that process a little bit. And The last thing that you need to do is create a file, and DDEV will give you an example of the file. So basically, you copy this pantheon.yaml.example file. It is out of the box inside .ddev providers. So I copy it inside with DDEV 10-deb. In this case, it is not a requirement, but what I use is the ID of my Pantheon project dash the environment name. So the dev environment for the DDEV 10 site. The example comes with this line that says DDEV generated as a comment. So the only two changes that I did after copying the file were removing that line, and then down here in the project, I specify again like the ID of the project and then the environment separated by a colon. So remember, first step is having the machine token. Second step is copying this file. Third step is making sure that your token is set up. So that happens in a global DDEV configuration. I will not show you my real token because you will have access to all my sites, and that would be very bad for my clients. But you will, like whatever token that you got, you come to this file, you basically follow this pattern and add your token there. I'm not going to save that because my real token is down below. After adding the token, you restart the project, and then you do a DDEV pull. So in this case, you can see the one that I created, DDEV pull, and following my own example, if I type --help, you can see that I can not download and import the database or the files, or maybe I want to download them but not automatically import them. For the sake of the example, and hopefully I have not been banned from yet another service today, I'm going to say yes to this. It is logging through my machine token. You can see my email there if you want to send me an email. And then remember that I said if Terminus is available inside the web container. What it's doing under the hood is calling Terminus to interact with the Pantheon service and fetch the latest dump that you created. And after downloading them, they get imported. And if I go to my site here, I say, DDEV example from Barcelona. And with that, I will like to switch back to the presentation. I guess it was mostly okay, except for being blocked by GitHub. So I want to say thank you to Randy Fay for his dedication, like, I don't know, 10 years, maybe even more, to the project. At least for me, it has saved me a lot of time, and I cannot imagine like how many people have saved a lot of time because of this. We also have another maintainer, Stanislav Shuk, I think it's pronounced. Skas, okay. And then we have 325 DDEV contributors and sponsors, so thank you everybody who makes this possible. And don't forget that tomorrow we have contribution opportunities, and this is the link to the feedback survey. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, I am here. Randy is here.
Yeah, has anyone got any questions? I've got one.
Yeah.
You said about using it on like the server, because I've just used DDEV on my like local machine. So what's the benefits of doing it, putting it on your server and SSHing in and stuff?
So, well, I guess it's in the mic, is already in the recording. What is the benefit of running DDEV in the server? What I have seen is using DDEV in CI environments to be able to execute tests, for example, like to automate and running parallel multiple tests. That being said, I guess one of the premises of Docker is being able to run it on production, and I guess there is nothing stopping you from doing the same with DDEV. It's just like a layer on top of it that gives you a lot of tooling around Drupal or WordPress or any framework that you might want to be using. So yeah.
Any more for any more? Yeah.
Hello, thank you for the speech. I have a question. Do you have any tools to measure the performance? So, I mean, can I check the CPU and memory load in real time, or maybe in logs?
I would so for profiling of the PHP application itself, like XHProf and XHGUI will help you. Inside the web container, you can install any tool that you want. I don't remember the name, but yesterday I saw someone installing like a panel for monitoring the server. But ultimately, you get a distribution like Linux, Debian, something under the hood. And if your distribution has a monitoring tool, you can install that. Let me see. I am sure that in one of the add-ons there will be something that you can just grab out of the box. That is not something that I do normally, but again, like either via DDEV add-on or just like a package in your distribution, or a project, you can get monitoring out of the box.
Okay, thank you. So, just in Docker, you have screens that you can see the CPU and memory load in real time. So, I just wonder if you have some thing of interface that showing the load in the real time, like in the Docker, on it.
Um, so there is a comment about Blackfire, but Blackfire is about profiling the PHP application.
Which is probably what you want to do,
Yeah.
is to study the behavior. And if you click through to the XHProf, just the plain one that you were using, it shows some pretty good stuff. It shows the amount of CPU, the wait time, which is usually more important.
Okay, thank you.
And that XHGUI add-on is phenomenal. It's great.
Yeah. So if you click on,
If you click on through those,
yeah, you can see the full graph. This takes a while to render, but I thought that you were asking about monitoring the server itself, not monitoring the PHP application. For the application, XHProf, XHGUI, or Blackfire will do it, but I thought that you were talking about monitoring, resource usage, like how much CPU or I am using, like what is the load on my database. I thought that is what you meant. That being said, DDEV has logs. You use the DDEV logs and you get access to logs for the database server, for the web server. And yeah, as I said, like if you are aware of any tool that will do that for your distribution of choice, because you are not only tied to one distribution under the hood, that will also work.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone.